Great. You're live.
Welcome to Slow News Day Live. My name is Steve Poikinen. I'm here in beautiful, kind of super chilly Boulder Creek, California. I have 3 pairs of sweatpants on right now. I'm kidding. I don't. That would be fucking silly. I am really stoked today because we've got kind of a double bill thing going on. In this first hour, we're going to have an in-depth conversation with the one and only Kit Cabello from Hardlands Media, and I've been looking forward to this all week. Kit, how the fuck you doing, man? It's good to see you.
Well, you know what? I have to say I'm doing good. It's rare for me to actually be on another show because, we're so busy at our studio trying to do so much, and I'll get into that later. But it's nice to be the guest. It's a rarity, and I love it. It's a great feeling, and it's awesome to be on your show. Always happy to collaborate with other independent media outlets, other people who are speaking truth to power, because let's face it, you're not going to get any real news from corporate media. They're not going to talk about what's impacting our country. They're not talking about how we're losing our civil liberties. They're only going to be talking about a few things like how Trump is bad, Biden is good, and all this other bullshit. And I think now more than ever, I think people are waking up to the fact that the system that we have, our political system, our media system, is all one big fucking lie. So I'm doing fantastic. I can't wait to shoot the shit and just have some fun, before the dreaded Monday comes around. We all gotta go through the week grind.
Hardlands Media is one of those shows that doesn't really stop working. I'm impressed with the both the quantity and the quality of content that you guys have been able to put out in a relatively short amount of time. And you're not just primarily focused on horse race shit. Like, you've had me on, you've had a number of other people on who are kind of outside of that element there. And I appreciate that, because so often in independent media, I've found content creators will train their audiences to only respond to one or two of the content creator's pet subjects. And then the audience, by dint of being trained, will tune out any information that isn't directly related to those one or two pet causes. So props to you guys for not following that sort of business model, or I guess, show format, structure, whatever the hell you want to call it. I'm entertained when I watch you guys, and I learn some stuff, and those are like the two things that I go for when I watch other shows, which I don't really fucking have time for. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, well, I do appreciate it. It's just the whole thing about how we set up Hardlands Media was it has to deal with myself and Daniel's experience in Philadelphia in 2016, where we saw Bernie Sanders supporters, volunteers, and delegates all telling us the same thing. And this is when we were just getting ourselves just involved into journalism. And they were telling us the same thing. They were being abused by the DNC. They were being abused and harassed by Clinton supporters and Clinton delegates. And us leaving Philadelphia, myself and Daniel decided, okay, well, let's try and create something that's going to give a voice to the voiceless. And we started off on the streets with just a Galaxy S7 cell phone, just recording protests and events. Then we got into radio, then on another radio station too. And then we had 3 seasons on public access. And it's always been, how can we get the message out there even further and never really stick to one thing? Because if you stick to one project, or like take for example, TYT's, Donald Trump segments, I forget what they called it back in 2016, but Doofus Donald or something like that, or Donald Trump's an idiot.
Right. We're doing whatever the money tells us to. We're calling this segment whatever the money tells us to call this segment today.
And our whole thought process has been, okay, if we do get a story to talk about, like maybe it was environmental racism or pollution or corruption, then we do cover it, but we got to cover a wide spectrum of things, and that's what the show was always about. And then of course we had to change things up, and like I said, I'll get into that later if you want to talk about that later. But
definitely,
we made it our goal to inform the audience so that the audience can use that information and empower themselves. Because at the end of the day, I take pride in being a journalist. I take pride in being the host of Heartlands Media. But I don't want to go down that pathway where I'm an activist or a community organizer. I want to cover the people that are bringing in change so that other people can be inspired to bring in change so that we can actually push forward. I believe that is my purpose, and that is to make sure that others can be empowered and push forward. I mean, I could say everything like, hey, this is how I see things. But if I go down that pathway, well, then I'm not contributing. And if I'm not willing to see another perspective, like a socialist perspective, or even a libertarian perspective, or a green perspective, and yes, even Democrat, Republican perspective, like it's important to look at different angles, but understand what the key problems are. And that is, look, we need to have Medicare for all. We need student debt forgiveness. We need a real UBI. We need to invest into our infrastructure. We need to deal with the threat that is climate change, ending wars, and ensuring we have election integrity and getting money out of politics. They keep going on and on and on. But, you know, it's important that we talk about these stories and also empower people at the same time, because that's the whole idea of journalism. But we don't have that in the United States. We have corporate establishment media that spoon feeds us neoliberal soup, and everyone's ill-informed about, well, why is everyone at risk of being homeless right now? Why is this virus running out of control? And the media and the political leadership, they're not giving us answers.
No, and what they're doing is they're politicizing things that ought not to be politicized, because that is what it just goes right back to training your audience. The audience of establishment media, legacy media, corporate media, whatever you want to call it, they have been trained to respond to confirmation of biases and outrage porn, and that's it. Yeah. And if you try and introduce someone who consumes establishment media to, you know, my show or your show, they automatically throw their hands up and walk away because it's too much. It's not confirming those biases, and it's not giving them the right dopamine hits for the outrage porn. Yeah. And I've always been a believer that everyone is on a path, that there's a progression of learning or an evolution of learning that goes through way beyond our school years. And that by the time you get to like my show or the shows that even go way the fuck deeper than mine do, by the time you get to that, you've already conquered the bubble learning aspect of your path. But you can't just like throwing somebody into a fucking ice cold lake. Right. You know, like it would be like if we put Sleepy Josh on a plane from Sacramento and flew him out to Chicago, and you tossed his ass in Lake Michigan. Like the reaction, the shock to the system that would occur is exactly what happens for people who are consumers of establishment media when confronted with when confronted with a show that doesn't hit those particular dopamine cells.
Right. No, I absolutely agree. And the thing is, like, we have to remember that, you know, everyone has a different perspective. You know, from all our audience members, like, we have to remember that people are asking for information, and it's important to really let them ascertain but to consume it and to then make their own opinions and judgments. I think we all understand what's really wrong in this country. I think we all really see what's happening. It's just, it's so rare for somebody to start speaking truth to power and maybe making people feel uncomfortable. But that's the whole point of independent media now at this point. And since we are right now live and you have your own independent show, you know, there's a whole movement being done by the establishment, by corporations, to basically silence independent media, because, you know, it's ever since this lockdown has happened, we've been seeing more and more corporations get involved in streaming services. And if you go on YouTube, what do you see recommended? You see Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel or something from CBS or Fox News or ABC or CNN. You're not seeing the original content creators. Even it doesn't even have to be independent media, but you're seeing independent content creators. You're seeing people who are creative, people who are, taking the initiative and building something, and it's being wiped away by these corporations that really don't care about empowering people. And let's look at this little time bomb that's right before us. At the end of July, that rent and mortgage freeze is going to be gone. Those unemployment benefits are going to be gone. Yet you have Congress people, you have senators and House representatives just shuffling their feet, and they're still on their wonderful vacations. Yeah. And the media's not going to talk about it. They might talk about it for a little bit, but they won't ever raise the issue. They won't make these politicians feel uncomfortable. And it's a simmering pot that's going to blow. It's a bomb that's going to blow. And everyone, when it does happen, when you have 50 million Americans right now on unemployment and at risk, 28 million potentially being out in the streets, being kicked out. Mm-hmm. It's going to make people react violently. Scared.
Not to mention the number of the tens of millions of people that will, as a result of being unemployed, lose their health insurance. Mm-hmm. In the middle of what they're, I think it's even been downgraded from pandemic, but in the middle of what everyone's considering a global pandemic, and two candidates for president who, as far as I can tell, the main difference between Trump and Biden is that Joe Biden doesn't know how to work Twitter in order to mean tweet. And outside of that, there's really not much of a difference between the two men or their philosophies. And both of them are on record saying, oh, yeah, no, you fucks aren't getting any kind of health care out of me. I don't know what you're thinking. And so the response has been, the response that we've seen with people in the street was a response to an egregious fucking execution. But my hope for all of that has been, as it progresses and there are still people out in the streets, that they will then use the energy that was created in the wake of George Floyd's murder and turn that into real substantive policy-based protest or, issue-generated protest. And I think that there's still some time for that to happen, even while people are being kidnapped and disappeared off the street in unmarked fucking vans by federal agents who don't even identify themselves, which, by the way, has been legal since 2011, thanks to the Obama-Biden administration and the 2011 NDAA.
Yeah, so you're not going to hear that on corporate media, though, because everyone wants to put on the rose-colored glasses thing. Oh, Obama was great, awesome. He was articulate. He could say things. Everyone was proud to be everyone was proud that he was our president. I'll give him this: the man can speak a very good game. He sold a very good image of himself. But it's the consequence of Obama being this Republican light Democrat neoliberal is that he created a system that would eventually give rise to Trump, and with Obama removing habeas corpus, with Obama bailing out the corporations, and so much more. There's a whole treasure trove list. Also, ensuring that ICE still remains. He gave it to somebody who should not be president. And look, I want to be very clear. I don't want to see a second term of Trump. I really don't. But the problem is, look at who the Democrats have fighting against him. Joe Biden, a man who's been in politics for 30 plus years, who's been on the wrong side of history, voted in favor for the war in Iraq. Under the Obama administration, he led us from 2 wars to now 7. Sided with the credit card corporations in 2005. Has gone on the record saying that he prostituted himself for corporations. He was against busing and desegregation. He verbally browbeaten Anita Hill. He never apologized for his crime bill. He's always been on the side of the top 1%, and it was against LGBTQ rights, but yet everyone is rallying around him because Obama is saying he's the best. Obama pulled all the power strings to make sure all the other establishment candidates would drop out. And now everyone is having amnesia because they're forgetting the primary debates. Because let's look back at those primary debates. how is Biden performing terribly? And even all the pundits agreed, except the moderators and everyone else was protecting him because the Democrats were throwing shit at the wall, seeing what would stick. First, it was Beto, then it was Buttigieg, then Kamala, then Corey, then Warren, and Klobuchar. None of them stuck. And then you have Biden, and with all the polling data that's being shown here, and I don't need to go on a rant. I do apologize for that. With all the polling data that's being shown, Biden is leading. Now, that's great on paper, but I remember seeing these same reports in 2016. And the key thing is, what a lot of vote blue, no matter who people have to realize, and to the diehard Biden supporters and establishment media and Democrats, since 2019, you were saying that Biden has this in the bag, that everyone's going to fall in line. Number one, in 2016, 46.9% of the United States population chose not to vote. There were many factors about why they couldn't vote, but they didn't vote. Two, there's going to be three debates, one in September, two in October. So whoever Biden's handlers are, they better, like everyone who's a diehard vote blue, no matter who person, better hope that his handlers gave him enough drugs so he doesn't stutter and stammer, make sure he doesn't crap his pants on the debate stage, and so much more, because then everyone's going to be reminded about how terrible Joe Biden is, and everyone's forgetting how he handled himself during the debates. And this whole basement strategy, well, yeah, it does look good. It's looking good for Biden. As soon as he starts speaking, it's going to be a downhill spiral. And if he does win, my concern is what follows a Biden administration. And if he loses, well, okay, we get a Trump administration, but how bad does this set back the progressive movement? Because you're seeing a lot of progressives also support Biden. And so, this could be an absolute disaster.
So I want to say maybe November of last year, I did a hell of an interview with Elizabeth Voss, because she had written this article for Consortium News. And by the way, shout out to Consortium News and happy birthday to CN Live. They turned 1 year old yesterday. Fantastic show. The article was called "It's the DNC Stupid," you know, playing off James Carville's "It's the Economy Stupid" in 1992, which is why you should have voted for Bill Clinton, even though his history bore it out. He was the greater of two evils in many, many regards. So we had this conversation, and it was, I thought it went really well, and I got on Twitter a couple hours later, and the gentleman who founded Bernie or Bust back in 2016 was in my inbox going, I would like to come on your show, and I would like to kind of go over the origins of Bernie or Bust and throw some numbers at you. And I gotta say, I've never been more disheartened than I was after watching your show, which is something that you and I love to hear from people who watch, right? Like, well, you guys really let me down there. So I had him on, and he was like, so here's the numbers. 88% of the people who voted for Bernie Sanders in the 2016 primary voted for Hillary Clinton. Out of the 12% who didn't, 6% of those, or have 50% of that 12% voted for Donald Trump. Some didn't vote, some voted third party, but most of them voted for Donald Trump. The situation that we're going to find ourselves in November, Kit, is that all of those progressives who were like, yeah, I felt the burn, I'm with Bernie Sanders all the way, they're slowly starting to come into Joe Biden's camp, and you're going to hear them advocate for policies that they know are counterintuitive to what the country needs. They're going to advocate for a man who they swore was their enemy, because in an increasingly secular society, the same energy that goes into religion has been transformed into political ideology. Mm-hmm. And because Daddy Bernie said so, they're now going, oh, well, yeah, you know, I guess some concessions on that climate change task force are really more than we could have expected, so we've got to go ahead and support this shit. Whereas in reality, it's fucking it's basically two mules fighting over a turnip at this point. Like, why do you care when there's real shit to worry about? But that's me coming from an activist perspective, not somebody who's, you know, like relatively new to politics, or maybe just started getting into politics because Bernie Sanders ran for president. And it's yeah, it's a fucking like horrifying and fascinating process to watch. It is.
I'm still kind of taken aback by Bernie Sanders because, you know, I understand his fear of Donald Trump. I get it. Everyone does. I don't want Donald Trump to be reelected. I won't. But I'm not going to vote for Biden because Biden helped create this neoliberal system in which we got Donald Trump in the first place. This is the reason why we got Trump is because of previous Democratic and Republican presidential administrations. And what people need to realize is that they are all friends. Biden was good friends with Republicans who were in support of segregation. I mean, Biden loved working with those guys. They were his friends, his pals. He loves working with corporations. He has no empathy for millennials. He has no empathy for anyone that's not in his little bubble. And seeing this odd defense of Biden, I get it. Hold on, I'm doing my Biden impression. I get it. But to the progressive movement that's going in for Biden now, you know, it's fascinating to see this ship sink. You know,
and not only is it sinking, it's being sank by the captains. Mm-hmm. Like there's if you know, if you forget to row away from the rocks, that's one thing. But when you've got the people who are in the engineering room going, fuck it, let's aim for the rocks, what's the worst that could happen? You know, it kind of frames it in a little bit different context. And I honestly don't think, and I never will think, that the people who are running Biden's campaign or running Trump's campaign or who ran Bernie's campaign for that matter have the best interests of you or me in mind when they are formulating these policy positions, when they're advocating, as Biden's foreign policy advisor did 2 days ago, saying, "Oh no," telling I can't remember who from AIPAC he was talking to. I had the article up earlier. I was skimming it. But Biden's foreign policy advisor was telling a room full of AIPAC people, not only are the rumors that Joe Biden is going to ease sanctions on Iran unfounded, he's going to double down on that and make sure that Iran isn't an emergent power in the next 10 years. Now, do you just have to like get off on genocide in order, like, are these people who can't achieve an erection unless brown people die? Like, I don't or is it just a culture of American exceptionalism that doesn't have a political party? It has politicians that come into its fold, or they get removed from the political landscape.
Looking at this, I would have to state that there's a lot of people that want to return things back to what is comfortable for them. Everyone wants to go back to brunch, basically. Everyone's afraid of Donald Trump. And look, if Trump gets reelected, it's going to be a nightmare again. But the thing is, everyone was so surprised. I think everyone's still suffering from PTSD, basically, from Trump's election, because, I mean, that threw everyone off. But, I mean, I remember even looking at 2016, I remember telling some of my closest friends, hey, look, this can go either Hillary gets elected or Trump gets elected. It's 50-50. And I'm going to say it right now, it's probably 50-50 again. And the only reason why I'm going that way, I'm not ignoring the polling data, all right? The polling data looks great for Biden. But those debates are going to be important, and anything can happen between now and November. And those polling data is just a snapshot in history. Right now, we're in the midst of a global pandemic, an economic depression, a true threat of climate change. And this is a situation that's tailor-made for somebody like Bernie Sanders to really step up and fight for these issues. But instead, the compromise that we got was this 110-page document by the task force, And in it, they don't talk about a UBI. They don't talk about Medicare for all. They don't talk about really fighting climate change. They don't talk about defunding the police. And, you know, Biden's policy on cannabis legalization, it's like a 1950s mentality, even though the rest of the country and the rest of the world is correctly moving away from this ridiculous prohibition mindset. And all these progressives right now, especially the blue checkmark people who are bending over backwards for Biden, you know, this is going to be a very difficult sell. And even if it wins, even if Biden wins, there's a lot of things to take into account. Jamie Dimon, JP Morgan Chase, and even Bloomberg supposedly have positions in a potential Biden administration. And so the thing is, who is the last person who has the last word was Biden? Biden is clearly showing signs of dementia, and he has some signs of cognitive disorder. Like he's unable to really remain focused, especially during debates or even a town hall or even a live stream. He stutters and he stammers all over the place.
You don't have to be that diplomatic on this show, Kit. You don't. You're being very diplomatic, in my opinion. You don't. You can cut loose a little bit here. You could say the swears, and you
know what? It's. I'm sort of training my mind not to swear as much because on the podcast, on the new show that we have on our channel, I'm trying to avoid that. But you know, it's fucking stupid. It truly is, and I'm just taken aback just how this can all just fall apart at the seams. Because if Biden is to lose, I mean, I could see a lot of people again having that collective meltdown because of their Trump derangement syndrome. But see, Trump is a symptom of what's wrong with the country. He is a byproduct. He is not the creator of it. He survived through it and he adapted to it like a parasite would, and now he's president. But he didn't create this neoliberal system. Now, is he continuing on? Yeah, but he's doing a sloppy job of kicking the can down the road. And this is a whole powder keg that can explode. And even then, even if Biden gets elected, you know, we're still looking at environmental racism. We're still looking at more wars. Nothing's going to get better. Biden has said nothing's going to fundamentally change. So then what is my incentive to vote for this man? Because what, Trump bad? I get that he's bad, but that's not correct. That's not a good policy. That's not a good campaign. You're setting the bar low, and the basement strategy can backfire on them because, again, the debates. And Trump is, I'm impressed that Trump has been holding back, and anything that the super PACs that Trump has that's working for him, you know, they could hit him on other issues. They could hit him on his 30 years in politics. They could hit him on every single gaffe and stutter that he's made. But instead they're saying like he's a communist and a socialist, and it's like, you know, if I was working for Trump, I'd be like, hey, look, we're not running this stupid Trojan horse ad. We could hit Biden on other issues and really make him look bad. But see, Trump is his own worst enemy. That's why he's shooting himself in the foot. You know.
Well, I've got a couple of insights into this, and I'm a little bit more familiar with how Republican strategists operate. What they're doing right now with the communist socialist shit is they're making sure that the base stays ginned up. You know, because as long as they've got a ginned up base, that base is going to be screaming into the void at the top of their lungs all day, every day. Now, any decent strategist knows that, yeah, you've got to throw some red meat to the base, but they're ultimately not who matters in an election. Who matters in an election are the people who aren't necessarily like rah-rah team about voting, but the people who are going to hold their nose and vote against a candidate rather than for a candidate. So because Americans have the attention span of a fucking half-stunned gnat, they're waiting to roll out the dementia clips. They're waiting to roll out a clip of what's his fuck? It'll come to me. Castro, Julio Castro on the debate stage talking about Joe Biden's dementia. They're going to roll those clips starting about mid-September, maybe the beginning of September. But there's the entire congressional recess that's going to take place prior to that. Joe Biden is still, as far as we know, being kept in one of Joe Rogan's fucking isolation tanks, being fed the blood of youngsters and whatever else he needs to stay alive. Like that's what's happening currently. And then when they do, if they do, because I'm not even convinced there's going to be debates or an election yet. I'm yet to be convinced of that. But if that occurs, that's when they're going to hammer home, hey, this is a dangerously inept son of a bitch. And I know because I'm a dangerously inept son of a bitch, and we can smell our own. Like I don't know. Please tell me what you think about that, though.
The way you describe it, especially with the end strategy, a lot of Americans, same thing as 2016, no one's really been paying attention. Everyone's right now, and with everything that we're being bombarded with coronavirus, economic depression, Trump being broadcasted on the news, people have short attention spans, and everyone's right now worried about their wallets. And the key thing is, it's going to be voter turnout. I personally believe that there will be at least, if there's not going to be 3 debates, there's going to be 1 debate. But there's a problem with that 1 debate, and because I've got a lot of friends who are Democratic voters, and of course, I'm once again having to repeat myself the stuff that I said in 2016. But that 1 debate, perception drives reality. First impressions are lasting impressions. And if Biden is stammering, stuttering, forgetting, acting really weird, or heaven forbid, he shits his pants on stage, and I'm not making that prediction, but if something like that happens, a lot of Americans will be watching like, well, gee, I don't feel confident with Biden, or either that the whole momentum that Biden's been getting is going to sputter out, and Trump can keep on poking and poking and poking. I will not underestimate Trump. He has avoided bankruptcies. He has avoided every single legal issue that's ever been brought up against him because he knows how to manipulate the system. And this is somebody who knows how to manipulate a crowd. He is a good TV show host, and he's someone who can get the job done. Now, does that make Trump great? Absolutely not. But there's going to be an election, and the key thing is voter enthusiasm and voter turnout. And it's going to be up to Biden or Trump to really motivate their supporters to turn out to vote. I think there's going to be an election because at this point, with everything that Trump has done, with everything that's been leading up to, something's got to give. And if Trump goes down the dictatorial route, well, then, hey, he's only hurting himself. But there's going to be an election, but voter turnout's going to be key. And the thing is we don't have a system where popular vote rules all. We have an antiquated system called the Electoral College. And whoever candidate wins the Electoral College, especially in key swing states like Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Florida, whoever can win those key swing states, they'll become president. It's the Electoral College that will have the final word. And I seriously have doubts in Biden. And if he does, it'll be by the skin of his teeth. But again, there's another factor in too. If you got 28 million Americans that are going to be homeless, if you have 50 million Americans that are right now on unemployment, if you have 3.8 million Americans testing positive for COVID-19, and at least as the number stands right now, 138,000 dead by COVID-19, and these numbers all look like they're going to rise even going into November, well, you might not have a lot of people turning out to vote, period, because situations understandably out of their control will be more important than them casting their vote.
So I've got a little bit different view of that, in that it doesn't matter if people go out and vote or not, because we don't have a legitimate election system. It looks good if people go out and vote, because then the people that are in power can point to these numbers and say, look, everybody took part in the process. We had a process, and this is the way it went down. But you and I both know from covering, or at least being involved in the absolute shit show that was 2016 and the rampant fraud that occurred in 2018, it's the act of voting is a sideshow. In my opinion, voting is the laziest and least effective political action you can take. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't, at least at the federal level. Let me qualify that. At the federal level, it's the laziest and least effective action you can take. There are ways for you to influence your immediate surroundings through the act of voting, but that, again, is the least effective and laziest direct political action you can make. And when it comes to your local city councils or aldermen or board of supervisors or whatever, you've constantly got to apply pressure to those fucks. Otherwise, they're comfortable in the perceived power of their environment, and they're going to flex that perceived power because people are idiots.
Okay, so I do think it is important to vote. I think, you know, it's just it's the matter of just we have a system that doesn't have election integrity, and that's the problem. I think it's important for a functioning democracy for voters to be involved in it. But to your point, with the current system that we have, because we don't have election integrity, because Democrats rig their primaries and Republicans rig general elections, theoretically, our votes really do not matter, because there's always going to be a solid red state and solid blue state, and it destroys any kind of chance for a third party vote as well. I am still in the camp of hope of that. Yes, people should turn out to vote, and voting is important. I wouldn't call it being lazy. I would say at this point, us casting our votes in this system really doesn't matter unless more people start stepping up and demanding real election integrity, ending gerrymandering, and so much more. But the key thing is that it's going to require a massive movement from the people. Just like these protests that are happening right now, they got to continue on. These national strikes need to continue on, and more people need to start being aware of this, because at the end of July, if the Congress can't get its act together, and you've got people who are now really struggling, like every single citizen in this country, it is their obligation at this point to start striking and start protesting and demanding more, and stop politely asking these politicians who are public servants. That's maybe where the path we're going to go down, where we actually get real democracy in this country. But it's not going to be an easy road, because we have, you know, police that will use chemical weapons that have been outlawed by the Geneva Convention. You have politicians who don't care. Take, for example, Elliot Engel, who said during the height of the George Floyd protests, I wouldn't be out here, you know, I wouldn't care if this wasn't a primary. I wouldn't be out here. You know, and there's more people like Elliot Engel in Congress.
And props to him for actually having an honest moment as a politician. You know, because he flat the fuck out wouldn't be if his job wasn't at stake. I want to jump tracks here a little bit, because we've got about 20 minutes or so before my next two guests come in. Okay. And you're welcome to hang out for that too. Two fucking phenomenal women from down Mexico way. Natalie Rivera Scott, she's the organizer for Mexico for Julian, and Stephanie Valerio, who's an attorney down there, and actually bullied the ACLU Mexico into releasing a definitive and effective statement in support of Julian Assange. They'll be on.
Cool. But right, well, I don't want to take too much away from them, but I'll maybe be in for a little bit, and then there is some other work I do have to do. But yeah, sure, go ahead, Todd.
So I grew up in the Midwest.
Yep.
I grew up in Central Indiana, in a little town called Anderson, that is only famous because Chris Hedges wrote about it in America: The Farewell Tour, as kind of a cautionary tale of what happened to towns under NAFTA. But my dad, who would have been 76 at the beginning of the week, passed away about 5 years ago, diehard Cubs fan his entire life. He grew up in Racine, Wisconsin, to the point to where he yanked me out of school when I was a kid to go up to Wrigley to see the first night game. And I got to know who I'm talking to. Are you White Sox or are you the Cubbies?
Oh, I'm a South Side thriller. I'm a North Side killer.
All right.
Go Chicago White Sox. That's my team.
Look, Ned, we can't all be perfect.
Hey, we got the championship first. Okay, everyone forgets 2005. 2005, we got there first. Everyone was jumping up for joy in 2016. Well, gee,
what do you mean? We got there like 117 years prior.
Oh, come on. Oh, my God. Sorry. I'm sorry.
And then there was that fucking goat.
Okay. Look. You guys got cursed. We just are a little bit drunk on the south side, okay? Our excuse is much more legitimate. You guys got cursed by a billy goat, okay?
After they tore down Old Comiskey, I went to Old Comiskey a number of times. I loved that ballpark. I fucking got to as close to weeping as I could when they tore it down. I think it's a shame that the two of the greatest fucking ballparks in the goddamn country were in the same town and had to have this fucking, crosstown rivalry. But no, I got a lot of love for my Sox fans, mostly because when I went to Chicago to hang out, it was on the south side. They don't let people that look like me up by the Gold Coast very often.
Yeah, the Gold Coast is its own other thing. And in case for anyone who doesn't realize, like there's a big divide between the north and south side of Chicago, and also including the west side of Chicago too. Chicago is a very hyper segregated city. We're number one in corruption, but I believe that the city is I think there's hope for this city. And I've seen stories of good people doing so many wonderful things. And, Chicagoans were hardy people. And we deal with a lot, especially from our leadership. But at the end of the day, I believe that this city can make a rebound. It just requires more people to turn up and get involved. And, of course, hey, look, Chicago White Sox, it's always the best team in the world. Best team.
You and Barack Obama have that opinion in common.
Look, let me be clear. Me and Jim Cabell are two different things altogether. Now, be sure to turn out to vote for my guy Biden. But let me be clear. Kit, he's definitely one of these progressive folks who doesn't like to vote. So whatever. But
man, Obama flat the fuck out abandoned Chicago to go to Martha's Vineyard and that $15 million fucking spread out there. I was just I found a reason to, like I said, I when I was talking to you earlier, I ran out of books to pour my brain out into, dump my brain out. So I started rereading cypherpunks, and there's a couple of sections in there where they talk about like Tony Rezko and fucking Rod Blagojevich and Barack Obama, and all of just the fucking endless snake eating its own tail of corruption that is Chicago city politics. It's a fucking, like, if you're not familiar with the history of just abject corruption in the leadership in the city of Chicago, movies will never do that shit justice. Ever.
I'm wondering if I could find this book before actually for your other guest gets here. There's a book that I have. It's called Chicago's Not Broke, and it's written by Tom Tresher. It's a book that's about this thick, and it's called Chicago is Not Broke. And the thing is, this city is not broke. We actually have money. It's a thing called the TIF funds, and the TIF funds, basically it's one big slush fund that the mayor or the previous mayors basically have a hold of. So yes, we do have money for public schools. Yes, we have money to rebuild our infrastructure. Yes, we have a lot of money to do a lot of things, only except the city is controlling it. So it's a book called Chicago's Not Broke. Let me see if I can find it. And I don't think I have enough time to be running up and down the whole place. Sadly, I don't. I should have had it. I should have had it. Again, it's called Chicago's Not Broke. I'm going to send you a photo of it.
Okay.
Via email, just so that
while we're on the city of Chicago, will you please tell the people who may not be familiar with let's go ahead and make this all encompassing. Let the people who are watching right now know what happened to Hardlands Media, the decisions you guys made as a result of it, and now the way that the show works, especially the Chicago corner part, because for nostalgia purposes, I find myself tuning into that.
Okay, so here's the deal. Hardlands Media, our original YouTube channel, was at 23,700 subscribers. In March, we complied with the lockdown, and perhaps, I don't know, like the ink's already dry. Maybe we could have saved the channel. But the sad thing is this is happening to a lot of independent media networks. Now, I'm not going to speak for you or your channel or anyone else's channel. But for what happened to Hard Lens Media is that every time we kept on uploading content on our original channel, it was either being limited or demonetized. And then every time we went live, people were saying, hey, I'm not getting notified that you're going live. And then it came to the point where YouTube was hiding our live notifications. And then I kept on getting constant emails from people, loyal fan base, saying, hey, I've been unsubscribed from your channel. What's going on? Because Jimmy Dore said the same thing too. Hey, make sure you're still subscribed because people are being unsubscribed. I was unsubscribed from Jimmy Dore's channel 3 times. So people are being unsubscribed. Basically, in June, mid-June, early June, maybe late May, myself and Daniel made the difficult decision of, we saw the writing on the wall. It kept on getting progressively worse. Our channel was basically being killed. YouTube has basically killed our channel. So we made the difficult decision of restarting, shutting down, walking away from Hard Lens Media. And it's not easy to walk away from a channel that has like that kind of a high subscription count, but at this point, everyone's being unsubscribed, and no matter what we did, it's like trying to fix a sinking ship, and the boat was sinking. And it wasn't easy. We didn't want to do this, but YouTube forced our hand, and so we created 2 new YouTube channels. And for anyone that wants to check out our website, go to hardlensmedia.com, HRDLENSMEDIA.com, and there's a link to HLM, which is our podcast, which is we talk stories. We do cover politics. We do cover other current events. We just can't cover controversial stories like police brutality, corruption, or I don't want to say his name because then, YouTube will, because as soon as I say his name, YouTube will kind of flag your channel too. But I'll tell you.
There's very little you could say that this channel either hasn't already said or like, dude. Like with Epstein or Julian Assange. Yeah, no, I interview Whitney Webb on like a bi-monthly basis. So
right. Yeah. So I didn't want to do anything like that, but or anything else that's maybe deemed too controversial. All that controversial stories, though, because we do talk about them, it goes onto another platform that we're on called Rockfin, which is great. Really like being on Rockfin. So we have our Hard Lens Media podcast, which is a brand new channel. It's growing great. We got so many people helping us out. And then there's Chicago Corner, which covers basically Chicago-related stories because we are a Chicago media network, and we're not going to ignore our city. I love my city. I believe in this city. And there's a lot of Chicago-centric stories that we do cover. And, it's something to introduce our audience to. So we're working on 3 different platforms, 2 YouTube channels. So basically Chicago Corner, HLM, which is Hard Lens Media, and then Rockfin, Hard Lens Media. And that's what we're doing. And it's been it's a lot more relaxing. And on each of the different channels, we have different content. It's not cut, copy, paste. And we're more free to do more. We're working more, but uploading content is much more faster for us too. And huge shout out to my team, Daniel, Gunnar, Jerome, Laney, Kira, Jose. I mean, all of us have really stepped up our game to really make this happen. And we wouldn't be anywhere without our wonderful subscribers and Patreon supporters. So that's what we had to do. It was not easy, but my warning to any other independent media content creator, it doesn't have to be politics, but anyone that's on YouTube, and they can cover a whole wide range of whatever they're doing their YouTube channel on, is that YouTube is going after independent people. YouTube is going after content creators. YouTube is destroying what made it great in the first place. And what happened to us is probably going to happen to your favorite YouTube channel or your favorite YouTuber, because YouTube might not like what you're saying or like what you're covering or deem you controversial. And I hated it. But me and Daniel did this because we wanted to continue on. We're not going to let something stop us like this. And I like working on the 3 different platforms. I like working on 3 different channels, and it's great. And I'm still who I am. And I ask just to cross promote, if you're interested, subscribe to HLM, subscribe to Chicago Corner, and subscribe to us on Rockfin. And that's it. But nothing's going to stop free speech, because I believe in free speech.
In the spirit of free speech and honest free speech at that. I will admit that I am my own favorite YouTuber because I'm a vainglorious bastard. It's actually not true. But no, I mean, this channel since day fucking one has had the boot on it, and it has grown. But I think I mentioned this earlier. Like, I'll get 1,500 subscribers in a week and be allowed to keep like 30 of them. I've been kind of found myself in the middle of this exposing the rot within the Green Party primary scandal that's going on. And it's a weird situation to be in, because the cabal that has taken over the Green Party has another activist nonprofit that co-sponsored Action for Assange's February events. So it's a really weird spot. It's not like, people were dedicated to coming out and supporting us from this organization, but their name was on all of our material and shit like that. But because I've had these conversations with Ian Schlackman and Dario Hunter, and we'll be speaking to Chad Wilson next week, because of that, I've been watching my view counts go backwards. I've watched the view count,
and that is not right.
On all of the interviews that I've done with Whitney Webb, and it's one of those, like, it's designed to make you give up. It's designed to make you throw your hands up in the air and quit, and that's not how I operate. Like, I'm gonna get louder, and I'm gonna try and get, as much reach as humanly possible, but I'm also going to try and bring in people who sort of operate from outside of the narratives as well, just to fucking rub it right in their goddamn face. And it's not, YouTube pays enough attention to me to censor me, right? But my goal is to make them pay enough attention to this channel to have to react to it beyond censorship. I'm not entirely sure what that looks like, or how that plays out. But I'm not going to fucking roll over for them. I know that.
So I will have to say this: like, everyone has to keep on fighting. Like, you, everyone, Jimmy, Nico, Kim Iverson, Tim Black, and Convo Couch, shout out to them too. Good friends with Craig and Fiorella. I think it's important that we keep fighting, because this censorship is bullshit, and I think it's going to be detrimental, because what happens to us will eventually happen to other people, and all this hard work, all this content, there's a lot that needs to be put into it. But what keeps me motivated are our supporters, are people who say, like, I agree with what you guys are doing, and you guys are doing a great thing. And a lot of people were asking us questions about, like, hey, why do you need to shut down your original channels or anything you can do? Well, sometimes when you're dealing with something like that, there's nothing you can do. And starting over too, it's like you realize, hey, this is what I can do better, and I can still outsmart. And like, here's the thing. As content creators, as independent journalists, we gotta outsmart the system, and you have to adapt and change in an environment that's becoming more and more hostile to progressives and independent media networks. So you can't back down. You can never stop. And what's happening to your channel is not right. What's happening to every other channel is not right. But we must fundamentally be aggressive and not stop. Because as soon as we stop, as soon as we burn ourselves out, the establishment gets its win, and we can't do that. And I just want to end this thing with, because there's one thing I want to bring up. We covered an event way early on Harlan's Media, and it was in Oak Park, and there was an activist there who knew who we were, and she said, "Hey, where's the rest of the media, like CBS and ABC?" Because I assumed that, like, we talk to each other. I'm like, we don't work with those guys. They might not be here, but we are here. And she smiled and said, "I'm glad you guys are here." And that's what gets me. That's what gets me motivated. That's what gets me happy. Is that when people see, like, hey, we are here, we do care, and that it's important to give these stories and talk about these stories to other people so that we can bring in real change. So yes.
No, and look, man, if it wasn't us doing it, I really feel like because of how often you see channels just get snuffed out, I honestly don't think that there would be much of an independent media presence at all, or if there was, it would be these people who exist primarily for bias confirmation for progressives. And I am, this goes back to what I was talking about with people being on a path. My problem with a lot of independent content creators is that what their channel does is it gives confirmation of bias to progressives, and it shuts down the sort of exploratory spirit in human beings that I think most of us have, to where like and all right, I'm going to try and explain like 8 things at once here, and it's not only because I took a small amount of mushrooms about an hour and a half ago. It's because this is the way that my brain works all the time. And the people that are watching right now are like incredibly familiar with, you know, my intake of psychedelic mushrooms at a microdose level to help stave off, you know, the depression that I think everybody has at this point, and to try and you know, to sort of encourage focus and creativity. But the business model that that the Young Turks were able to sort of perfect over the years was fluff for progressives, because in my opinion, progressives were starved for an atmosphere in media that talks about the stuff that they are concerned about, and because progressives are gullible as fuck. And the reason that I think progressives are gullible as fuck is because Bernie Sanders sheepdogged these motherfuckers not once but twice. In 2015, Chris Hedges wrote an article as soon as Bernie announced, saying Bernie Sanders is not a socialist. He is not a defender of the working class. He is not this. He is not that. This is marketing. And if you watch the trajectory of the career, the marketing and the record don't mesh. And this is roundly vilified. At the same time, Hillary Clinton was getting a documentary made about her campaign, and it came out on Hulu the beginning of the year. It was like 4 hours long and fucking terrible. Were it not for Susan Dawson,
so wait, you sat through that documentary? You watched it?
I watched, I'm gonna say 2.5 hours of it.
Oh my God, you're wow, dude. I could not do that. You're brave.
So I come from a background of writing. Like before I ever did any of this shit, I was a writer, and the 3 rules of being a successful writer of any kind is you have to hate yourself, and then you have to drink, and then you have to hate yourself while you drink. And like if you follow those, you know, hate yourself, drink a lot, and then keep hating yourself, you can be an okay writer. So I did. I watched some of that fucking documentary, and there's a section in it in 2015 where someone asked Hillary Clinton about Bernie Sanders, and she fucking chuckles maniacally, and it gets little crazy eyes going on, and she's like, "Oh, Bernie, oh, that's what Bernie does. He talks like that, but at the end of the day, when we need him, he's always there for us." And like she, in that one sentence, dismissed the entire Sanders campaign and movement, but encapsulated it in a way that like the power elite that's how they view Bernie Sanders, because Bernie Sanders has been so successfully able to bring so many people into a party that has never and will never represent them.
I want to end this on a final, because I see your two other guests are coming in here, and I think it's important to give them their platform too. It's important for people to be critical, even our supporters. Like, it's always important to never hero worship. That's the last thing you want to do. And look, I respect Bernie Sanders for the work he has done. I think he's inspired people to go further. He's planted a lot of trees, but the movement has to go past him now. TYT, hey, look, just to be real, I was a TYT fan, but eventually I had to walk away because I felt like the platform was not really, he kept on covering Trump 24/7, and I get that he's bad, but if they're not going to really call out election fraud or the hypocrisy of the DNC, or either that, like, start covering more and more stories like how they used to with investigative journalism, I'm going to have to walk away too. You can't hero worship everything forever because, again, human beings, we have flaws. We're not perfect. But I think together, if we remain critical of our systems, if we keep on remaining involved in this system and try and bring in real change, I think we're on the pathway of fighting for a better future. It just won't be easy, but don't never, ever, ever hero worship, but always continue to be critical, think for yourselves, and always have the will to fight back, because the fight for a better future is always going to be an uphill fight, but we can do it. We can win, because why? I believe that this world is filled with good people.
You know what?
Yeah.
I do. I agree with that. I do. And can I tell you something real quick before you bounce? I'll have to tell you this story at a later time because I do want to welcome my next guest for the day. Yeah. But I very nearly got into a fight with Cenk Uygur in 2008 at the Republican National Convention. We were in a hotel bar, and I was very drunk.
Really?
And I was talking an inordinate amount of shit at and to and in the general vicinity of Cenk Uygur. Like, you're a quasi-libertarian grifter, you're a fucking dumb fat fuck who's bilking people out of their hard-earned money to give them a product that they really didn't sign up for, because you're ultimately steering people back into the DNC. And it sounded a lot less eloquent than that, and it was peppered with way more fucks and you suck and here's why, like that kind of shit. But he got up and he started to grab a chair like he was gonna try and break it over me, and we got sort of pushed into corners, and then immediately afterwards, amnesia and blindness set over an entire room full of journalists that were like, I didn't see shit. I don't know what this guy's talking. Cenk wouldn't stop talking about it, and they're like, yeah, buddy, you're on your own. I don't know, because he has that kind of reputation in other journalistic circles. So I'll have to pick that up with you at some point. Kit, thank you so much.
No problem.
For being on the show. I have, as much faith as a heathen can give that Hardlands Media will be a success on the platforms that you have moved to. Rockfin is fucking incredible. We're live streaming on Rockfin right now.
All right,
and,
shout out to Rockfin.
One more time, let everyone know where they can find you and how they can support you.
Okay, so everyone, if you want to help out Hardlands Media, if you want to learn more about us, go to our website, www.hardlensmedia.com, HARDLENSMEDIA.com. So hard like a rock, lens like a camera lens, and in media, hardlensmedia.com. We have 2 YouTube channels. The links are in the social media description box up there. You can find us on HLM, Chicago Corner, and also subscribe to us on Rockfin as well. Subscribe to all 3 channels. It was helping us out because we're not done yet. We are going to keep pushing forward and hold ourselves accountable because, again, with this crisis, it's not us that got us out of the little hole that we were in. It was our supporters, our subscribers, our Patreon supporters. And we owe it to them to really create something that the city of Chicago has never seen before, and that is a real independent media network that's speaking truth to power. And it's the beginning, and I want to continue pushing forward. So thank you so much for having me on as a guest. I do apologize if I did rant here and there. It's, I try to avoid that, but I do apologize.
No, the
but,
format for the show is me giving guests the space to get it all out. Like I know that most of the people that come on this show are way the fuck more professional than me, and normally don't swear like their parents were both truckers and sailors. So I try to step back a little bit and just sort of let people go, and I think it works out. I do. I'm glad we got to have this chat, and I look forward to chatting with you again in the future, man. I do.
All right. Well, then, to be continued. I'm going to bounce out and then give this platform to your two guests, and all the best to you, and take care, everyone.
And Kit Cabello, folks, we had all of his pertinence up on the screen. If the two of you could turn your cameras back on so I can introduce you, that would be fucking Skippy. So I'm stoked because the first time that I was like really on a live stream with the two of you together was just a couple of weeks ago when it was Julian Assange's birthday vigil. I'm looking forward to this without any further delays. The distractingly beautiful Natalie Rivera Scott and Stephanie Valesco. Valeria, how you doing? How's it going?
How is your Sunday going?
So far so good. I think that was a fun and productive conversation. But I experienced like every show in a blackout kind of thing, where if you were to ask me in about 10 minutes what Kit and I talked about, I would have no fucking idea. And like sometimes that will come back to haunt me, where someone will be like, I heard you say this shit on your show, and I'm like, maybe. I don't know, it kind of sounds like me, but I can't be sure.
It happened.
If you could, Nat and then Stephanie, kind of let the folks who are watching with us right now know who you are and what you're all about.
Okay, so I'm Natalia Rivera. I'm from Mexico City, and I'm an activist, also an art conservator. And I've been advocating for Julian's release for a lot of years now, and also for Guantanamo, Chelsea Manning, Edward Snowden. And I'm the founder of Mexico con Julian. And the page has been on for a few months only, since October. But I've been campaigning for a long time. And I had the luck to found Stephanie in the social media. So now we are doing actions together. And I think that's it.
I mean, that's fucking more than enough for any one person to try and wrap their world around. You got a lot going on.
Hola, Steph.
Hello. I'm Stephanie Valerio. I'm too many things, so I want to tell you the basics. So I am a cyber lawyer, and I do things related with legal tech in my country. I'm an activist. I'm an independent activist. I'm an activist with Amnesty International. I'm part of a group called Frente Nacional para la Sororidad. It's a group that is defending the right of women to live without digital violence. And I think that it's pretty much what I do.
I thought I was busy until about 30 seconds ago.
Yes. Now I'm part of Deloitte related with legal tech. So I'm too many things. I'm also a clown volunteer as Patch Adams. So it's are too many things.
No, I feel that. I do. like as soon as we're done, I have to go give an interview, and then I've got 2 separate meetings that I have to be a part of this evening, and I've got a fucking day job and then 2 shows, and it's it's a lot.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're very busy.
And yet I still I still manage to like totally fuck off projects. And it's weird. I've always had this thing where I overcommit to something, and then like 3 or 4 things fall by the wayside by dint of me overcommitting to it. It's a character flaw that not even mushrooms have been able to fix.
Yes, I have the problem. I can say no to anything. I say yes every time someone invite me some project. So I think I'm crazy.
Well, that's been great to me because you always say yes when I invite you to,
Yes,
to join me. So thank you.
Something abusive here.
How is Mexico for Julian going? I know that we got to see some or I know that we got to like spend some time with you the other night on the birthday vigil. Is it so Commander X told me that Mexico had a lot of like anonymous collective members throughout the entire country, but that's certainly, it's like people think California is just Los Angeles and San Francisco and nothing else. Like, I think that people who haven't spent a lot of time in Mexico think that it's like Mexico City and fucking what's the guy, Acapulco, and that's like it.
Tijuana.
Yeah, and that there's nothing else, and it's all just this sort of centrally located thing, and it's not. It's fucking pretty vast country, a lot of turf there. So yeah, I mean, what is advocating for Julian Assange like in Mexico City and in Mexico on the whole?
Nat, I think that it is your subject.
So it's been lonely for some years because I thought I was alone in this. Like for example, in other things like Guantanamo, I go every year to the American Embassy alone to take the photos for Andy Worthington's campaign. And as much as I've tried to inform people and lend them books about the detainees that have written books, their testimonies, their lives, no one is really like involved in this. So for many years it's been lonely, and I think for more than a year since the first Candles for Assange birthday that Alex organized, I met many more activists. They belong to another group. So we have 2 groups in Mexico City now campaigning for Julian, and I think we have gotten to more people to know who he is. Still, this is a really challenging thing because many people don't know who he is, and I think that's one of the things I consider most important, and for me is to keep telling people who he is and not pushing them to join me or go to the streets, but to know who he is and the importance of his work and his life and his sacrifice. So I think I have found through social media other people in other cities like Guadalajara, for example. There's a person doing some the yellow ribbons there.
Oh, cool.
And that has been really important because we've been trying to reach people from another city. And well, here is a really big city. We are almost 30 million people. And so I know there are many more people out there who will defend Julian, but it's been lonely sometimes. And I've been feeling really with company with Stephanie because she has a lot more ways to connect or to reach people through her job and her activism. So I think it's a good team now.
And Stephanie, you were able to like wrangle a response out of the ACLU Mexico in support of Julian. And it was a statement that went much further than any other nation's ACLU or the international ACLU. Could you please talk about that? And like, are you like a secret ninja? Did you hurt people? How did that work out?
No, I don't know. Well, first of all, I don't know why I'm a lawyer. So this started because my best friend got murdered. He had like 16. And I am very confused because I believe that we need a better world. Sometimes I'm very sad. And I started this fight. I believe that if I became a lawyer, I could take some tools to change the world or my country. And maybe I was a little confused. Maybe that's why I try to get together these two parts that I love, like the part of technology. I'm a geek, and the other parts of the human rights defenders. I believe that we have so many troubles here in our country. We have a lot of murders of women. We have a lot of puberty. Yes, it's puberty. Yes, I believe. And we have a lot of problems with corruption. And people is like sad, but at the same time they don't care, or they don't want to care. I believe. In the case of Julian, Amnesty International Mexico is trying to do many things, but the thing is that it's a huge movement. No, it's a huge organization, and we need lots of communication with Amnesty International US or UK or Australia, and that's the thing, that we have too many troubles and we have to fight for too many rights, that we are lost and we don't get the importance of the Julian's case or WikiLeaks case or the activist of information case, because people is so worried about too many things that they believe that this is not important. So I believe that um, we care about Julian, and I care about Julian. So I believe that with little actions, we can build a great world, and we can help Julian and other activists like Commander and other activists related with Anonymous or other movements. But it's very hard to me to say how is the impact, or what we need to make more for Julian or for the world, because we have a lot of problems. Now we have COVID, so I don't know.
So I've been testing this one out, and if you see any validity to it, then please test it out on your own and then tell me if it works or not. But because of all of the protests that are happening around the US right now, I've been trying to get the point across that your movement's success is determined by your ability to get out accurate information about your movement. And if there's no free press, if there's no citizen media, if there's a legal precedent set that any journalist or publisher anywhere in the world can be extradited to another country and prosecuted because they wrote something that embarrassed that government, your movement is fucked. And that's why you should support Julian Assange in this, is the end of that.
Of course, and the thing that I believe is, now we have a lot of information, but we have a lot of fake news. So that's another problem. But all people is confused. Some people know about Julian, other believes that he's like the enemy of the United States. So it's very difficult for us to go person by person, trying to tell them the truth, because that's the important thing. What's the truth? They don't care about what is fake or what is true. So I don't know. This is very sad because we care about a lot of stupid things like football or some other things, but we don't care about our activists or our defenders.
Don't know football though, because I played like from the time that I was 5, and I was actually pretty good at it. Like you know, I mean, I'm
Well,
fucking.
I'm first.
Well, I'm a big fan of football too.
Okay.
And when it's World Cup, I don't do anything but watch the matches. It's really important for me too. And there's also activism in football. Like they started wearing the gay flag in the last World Cup, and I don't know. I thought it was a really important statement. Few like small things, and so many people watching the matches, and I think the message got to many people. So it's also a good way to transmit the message. But going back to what you said, I think in my page, in Mexico con Julian's page, I post many information. Not because yes, you say we are fighting a lot of fake news, and Mexico is a country that has people, so many millions with a few access to education. So the struggle for many people is go to school. Of course, in their world, there's no Julian Assange or there's no WikiLeaks or there's no activism. It's just like trying to eat in their day or trying to the struggle for their many kids, their family. We have, this is a very conservative country, very influenced by religion. So there's a lot of misinformation about this cause because of that factors. So
and everything's
it's
related.
sorry. Yes, it's related.
It's related because they don't tell us all the information and they don't want to tell us the truth about everything because they don't want to have activists or human rights defenders because they don't want to have these enemies or whatever they think we are.
And I also think we have a very few independent media. Of course, no one is reporting about Julian, basically. The press that Julian chose in Mexico is called La Jornada, amongst like Del País or Der Spiegel, or here in Mexico it was La Jornada, and they barely report anything about Julian. So it's difficult too because I've tried to reach these journalists that I respect in Mexico, and there hasn't been any response back. It's just like you don't have to make this whole coverage. Just mention him or just inform the people there's going to be a hearing or he's facing 175 years of prison, extradition, and it's just like everybody is quiet. So it's struggling. It's really difficult, frustrating for me sometimes to haven't been able to reach the media and still being in Mexico controlled by two important companies of media, and they put a lot of fake news out there. So and no Julian, so it's difficult.
And we have this project called Mexico Leaks, I believe, but they don't talk about Julian, so it's very strange.
No.
And we have this Anonymous Mexico, but I believe that one of the problems is that we know Anonymous is a movement, it's not an organization, so everyone can be anonymous. And the problem is that some of our citizens take this name and use it just in order to fight against one people or one government or one president, and they don't talk about the other important things. So this is very sad because people believe that Anonymous is only a movement against AMLO, Andres Manuel, and it's not about this. Anonymous is something bigger.
Can you talk for a moment about Mexico's current president right now, because there have been like positive statements that he's made about Julian Assange, but I know that he's also viewed as kind of like a more neoliberal style president. And is the positivity towards Julian sincere? And if so, how does that not play out in I guess taking better care of the populace?
Well, I think I don't think it's sincere. Maybe Stephanie and I have a different point of view on that. I don't like the guy. I've said it many times. And well, I was surprised that he mentioned Julian. It was like all over the place. It was really important because Mrs. Assange thanked him in Twitter. And of course, coming from her, it's huge. And it was really heartfelt. I think it was important because I think many people that follow him, he won like by a majority of like overwhelming votes. People wanted a change, so he really won. But I don't know why he mentioned him, because there's no like history behind in his political career about supporting Julian or WikiLeaks or information, because he's threatened the media directly in his conferences. So there's no like free press or I support media. He's always attacking the opposition. And I think many things that WikiLeaks stands for are against not his government, but opposing people like him. He mentioned Julian once, but after that he was silent. And we expected the last time we saw each other, it was going to be the meeting in Washington with Lopez Obrador and President Trump. I was very polite with President Trump. And of course, we don't know what happened, but at the end of the meeting, it was like, we are friends, we are dudes, high five. And that's not Mexico's position, and that's not how the relation has been between our countries. So I think for me, it's a big disappointment. I don't think Lopez Obrador has a strong position for Julian. So I don't think it's sincere, and I don't think he will continue to support him because he's never mentioned him again.
I'll give you an opportunity to answer that as well. Even if you're just going to be like, yeah, what she said,
Well, I believe that we have to analyze this history related with Andres Manuel in other time, because the history in our country is really sad, because we have these uh, corruptions since, I don't know, maybe since we weren't. Well, I don't know, but the problem is that AMLO, it's a guy that was fighting against the economical power, if you think about it, and and this connection between the economical and the political power in our country. So he became president, and I believe that he had so many troubles because the people that had the economical power is people that is fighting against him. It's people that don't respect the labor rights or the human rights of anyone. And of course, if you have a country and you are president of a big country, you have to be diplomatic and you have to talk with these people and be nice to these people. But also, you know that that these people are doing so horrible things with your citizens. So I believe that if you start to talk about them as your enemies, they are going to hit your government, and you are going to have a lot of troubles related with economy. So I believe that AMLO is a person that is not bad. I believe that he have a lot of good intentions, but our country is very corrupted. This and the narcos and I believe the crime are very connected with our government since the past. So if we try to imagine what AMLO can do, I don't know. It's very hard to fight against all these things. In our country, the press was really connected with the political power. So we never had the truth. So now he's fighting against this media, and someone can think that he's like the enemy of the free speech, or I don't know, of the press, but he's not. Maybe we have to analyze the work of these press, because they never told us the truth. So I believe that this is the things that we need to think now in with this government, because they have a lot of enemies, and these enemies in the past control our information and our money. So it's very difficult, I believe. And something good is that AMLO or his government gave commanders the political asylum. So I believe that he is, or maybe he's trying to do some things, but he can fight against everything, you know, because people with money is people with power, and they have power of with our, you know, I don't know, with this is this word, employees or employees.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So it's very difficult for one person to fight against all these things. So we have to analyze our history, because they lied us every time in the past.
Um, I do. Will you tell Commander X that we miss him, and we would like him to turn back up at some point. There's some anons that are in the live chat now that just wanted to pass along their love, and yeah, tell him hi. On Twitter today, there's like Twitter's going fucking apeshit because there's a video of what they're claiming is a cartel with like straight up military equipment. And do you know what I'm talking about? Have you seen the thing?
First, because United States give these tools to our crime groups.
Yes, they arm,
course.
they arm the whole country here. So, I mean, I haven't seen the video specifically because there are many like those, but the weapons. There was another not very lovable president before López Obrador, and one of the things he tried to do was trying to disarm, or I don't know how to say. We don't like any of our presidents, but I mean, he tried to like stop, like ask the U.S. not to give weapons to Mexico because we have the cartels and we have all this violence. And for many years, and I'm not an expert on this, but for many years, as long as it was like between them, like, okay, kill each other, okay, it's okay. But now, if they attack this population with these weapons that we know they get from the US, well, that's another thing. So many civilians were trying to defend themselves and weaponizing themselves because of this terrible situation of the weapons. There's a very important artist here called Pedro Reyes who made an installation in the border with the weapons, and it said like no arms or no weapons, with these many guns brought from the US. So we've tried to make this statement against that.
The US has such a rich history of destabilizing Central and South America. It's like when we can't go just manufacture a reason to go bomb the Middle East, we turn our eyes to the South and say, how can we fuck with these guys? And I like, it was public record that the Fast and the Furious plan that the Obama administration picked up from the George W. Bush administration where it was, we're trying to entrap the cartels, so we're going to give them all these guns and then conveniently lose the notebook where had everybody's name written down in it that we were supposed to go arrest. And sure, we could track them down by just going and rounding up the people with our guns, but how would we know that they were the people we were supposed to arrest? So we're just gonna say fuck it, and like walk away. Were it not for the illegal drug trade, like we would not have half of our government agencies. There's such an economic dependence on this bullshit war with real world casualties and real world fucking consequences on both sides of the border. That it's almost like right now Joe Biden is like, fuck no, I don't want to decriminalize marijuana. Why would I do that? Because he comes from this culture of needing the drug war and needing it to proliferate. I'm glad that I'm not glad because it's the fucking country that I live in that is supplying fucking cartels with military hardware. But I'm glad that you addressed it. The questions are coming out of the chat right now. I'm happy to report that my chat is nearly as smitten with the two of you as I am. Rob Juno asks, where'd it go? It just jumped. Oh, how do you see the legal evolution of Mexico and over the next like 3 or 4 years? And this is for both of you.
I think Stephanie should answer that. Or she
I
has
think
more.
that I have enough information to talk about these things, because they talk about the legalization of drugs in sometimes, but we are not working in this project, so it's very weird.
Well, that was one of the promises of López Obrador during the campaign, because, sorry, I bitch a lot about him, but he was supposed to be this liberal, president. The lady that is in like Secretary of State here, also she has spoken openly about legalizing marijuana and all that, but it's been almost 2 years and they haven't done it. And honestly, I thought they were going to do it day 2, because it will help a lot in Mexico, and because we've seen so like the US is a great example for us in many things, in many good things, and we've seen how legalizing in Colorado and other states has helped with jobs and a lot of things. And because also Mexicans go there to work in the marijuana fields or some things like that, and he hasn't done it, and it's not something that is on the agenda because it's not spoken about anymore. And honestly, we've been waiting for it to happen because it will be good for the, in my opinion, for the country, and also because there are other facts of not only like recreation marijuana but medicinal marijuana that would really help people here, because I've seen people even going to trial to get their children medicine, like medicinal marijuana, and they've won these cases because they have small children with epilepsy or with cancer or with horrible diseases. And for me, it's like really difficult to understand that we are a country, yes, we are a third world country, but we are trying to go forward. We go very slow, but in Mexico City, for example, it's more open mind people, and it's something we all support. But this guy is not liberal. He's like closeted. I don't know how you say, like right thingy.
Yeah.
And so he just stopped promoting the legalization, and it's something I don't understand.
Yes, that's true. We have a little changes in our laws related with this with marijuana, but we didn't change things related with plant and production. So it's very difficult to understand and what he wants to do, because he talk about this legalization, but he's like, I don't know, freeze.
Here in California, we on purpose screwed up legalizing cannabis. It was the bill that passed that actually went through the state house and got approved and signed by the governor was one that basically crushed small to medium sized growers. It made people who make, like, I get edibles, whether it's, really sugary snacky shit or breads, things like that, made it they have to pay like 3 different times just to get approved. There's 3-stage testing of their product, and the facilities that are growing, they've got ICE pulling up like every other day just to make sure that the people who are working there, have their papers, because we're fucking Nazis with our own little stormtroopers, and now we have a giant citizen snitch army from this whole COVID thing with contact tracing, and people are just as, I think people are I've tried to have this conversation with a couple of people. Maybe you can help me out with it, and this is just here locally in my own community, where I've taken the position that because of the oversaturation of information that the average American has, they're dumber than someone who would not have access to this information at all. I don't know. It's a thought. Mark Twain said, if you don't read the paper, you're uninformed, and if you read the paper, you're misinformed. And I kind of feel like that holds true almost universally. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, as I mentioned before, here I think one of the biggest problems besides poverty, and it's related to, is the lack of education generally. The not only education of schools, but the criteria and common sense and free thinking. It's so manipulated, and so even people in this government, they have many people that didn't finish, they didn't study college, or so we are going from a point that the people that govern the country don't have a lot of preparation, and I think that is going to affect many laws and it's going to be an obstacle for the country to move forward. Mexico City, for example, has and I didn't know this until a couple of years ago. Mexico has one of the, I think it's only 5 or 6 countries worldwide that has inclusive constitution, and I didn't think Mexico would, because we are really like light years away from the first world in many things. But there has been a lot of things that are making this city be in the first world category because of many people that have changed the laws, so we can be a more first world city and not stay behind because of the lack of education.
That's fair. It's so because I have kids that are in high school and in elementary school, and the education system that we have here is garbage. Like it's set up to punish individual thought and not question anything that your teacher or anyone in authority tells you. And it's very rare that you find a teacher who is willing to challenge their students or teach off book from the predetermined curriculum. And I gotta believe that we can do better, and the education has to go through this sort of like redefinition process, not just in the States, but you know, on a global level. And the people who watch the show right now are going to hear me use the word global and go, he's a fucking globalist shill. I knew it. I knew it. You know, that's not what I'm talking about.
Of course, the New World Order.
Pardon?
The New World Order.
Right. I am actively fighting those people. What I do advocate for is sort of like, I don't know, in the same vein that Anonymous is an international collective of people who share ideas and pornography with each other. I again, I think that like we don't necessarily have to have international standards as we have to have an international collective ascension in the way that we look at the world around us and the way that we look at our communities and the way that we look at how children learn. Because I'm tired of being a parent that has to like reteach my child every day that they're done with school, you know?
You look very young to have children.
Thank you.
But I think you're an awesome dad. I think one of the problem here is that so many people don't have access to private schools, unlike you that you have. I mean, good. The public schools are good, or that's what we think in Mexico, that you have awesome public schools. Here, people that there's no good education in public schools, and I know many people are going to be angry at me because I said this. But another thing I criticize about this government is the president has heavily criticized people that go to private schools and study abroad. And they say we are the ones that are damaging the country, you know, and that's not a thinking that you can have or transmit or do to your 130 million citizens. Just like that, he took 14 years to finish college. So this is a guy that is not very smart. He's not very well prepared. So,
Sounds like a guy who got.
I'm going to defend him at
sorry.
this point because he finished his career at the time that he most, but he did a lot of other political things in these years, like 11 years that take him to get his degree. But it was not because he was not very intelligent. It was because, of course, that he needs to do other things related with activism or other political things. So I have to defend AMLO at this point. And the other thing is that I don't believe AMLO hates people of private schools. I believe that the message is that some of the people that study in these schools are privileged. So
Well,
if you are poor and want to have kind of schools, well, it's impossible because you have to pay like big amounts to get good education, and sometimes your parents were part of this corrupted group or mafia del poder, as we said in Spanish. So the same people that control the economical power and the political power is the same people that can go to that or have to or have access to these kind of schools. So why they think that are superior or more intelligent than the other that have no opportunities to have the access of this education. So I think that this is the main problem here in Mexico. The other things is that one group called, I don't believe that Mexico contra la Corrupción or something like that, they made a study and they conclude that the private education and the public education here in our country was bad. And the private education is not better than the public education. It's as bad as the public education.
Okay,
So
I'll give you that.
Bad information about this because we have really bad knowledge about maths. We don't read, and this is not only a problem of the public schools. I studied in a private school called Colegio Anglo-Americano de Coyoacán, and I believe that maybe I'm stupid as many people in this world, so I believe that is not a problem of money or something like that. I believe it's about the system.
Yes, I agree on that, but it's terrible that he goes and says that people that went to study abroad are damaging the country because I mean, even in his government, he has the secretary of I don't know what's called Relaciones Exteriores or Foreign Affairs. Sorry, he studied in France, I think. So we have to, instead of uniting us all, he's been separating people. And I've never felt this country more separated than in these past 2 years. And that makes me really sad, and that breaks my heart all the time.
I think
we are a very united country.
I believe that we were separated, yes, before AMLO, because our country is one of the more, these countries have this bridge with the poor and the rich people, and it's the biggest bridge, I believe, in Latin America.
Yes.
So we were separated before AMLO. The thing is that now we are acknowledged of this separation. And
well, he promotes it.
Care about this separation because he talked about this difference. Because we didn't care about the poor.
When I look at the conversations that take place here in the States, or when I talk to people who are in the UK or in Australia or in France, it's the exact same thing that I'm hearing from the two of you right now. And I 100% believe that it's intentional, that everyone is walking around feeling like this is the most divided that their country has been, or that they're just now acknowledging that a division has existed. I think that we are no one more heavily than America, but I think we are all to a degree heavily propagandized, and that, like, when you're propagandized from birth, like, and it's part of what forms, you know, your self-identity is on what side of that propaganda you fall. Like, that's some hard shit to shake off, you know. And I even like just earlier when Kit was on, I was giving him some shit about being a Chicago White Sox fan because my baseball team was on the other side of town, and I had to give him a little bit of shit for that. It's like that kind of ingrained, you know, conditioning doesn't shake off easily at all. And real quick, man, if we could circle back to the World Cup for just a moment. For like 20 years, my squad in the World Cup was Argentina, because Maradona was the most corrupt, crazy son of a bitch on the planet. And like, I was a very impressionable lad when the whole hand of God thing happened. Like, I saw that on television. And so, yeah, for like 20 years, I I still have a jersey and a fucking scarf somewhere. Like I do. That's why I'm not going to talk about World Cup or football again for the rest of the show. I promise. I want to see if there's any more questions here out of the chat, and then I do kind of got to wrap here in the next like 10 minutes or so. I have an interview that I have to do in about an hour, and my ass hurts. I've been sitting in this chair since about 8 o'clock this morning. Let me see. Not seeing anything pop up. There's a lot of love for the two of you in the chat, and the folks that are watching have enjoyed the hell out of the conversation. I have. I guess go ahead and give me some like closing thoughts from both of you. Let people know where they can find you. And please do like smack X on the back of the head and be like, hey, holler at your people if that's possible.
Well, I have the Facebook page of Mexico con Julian in Spanish, and I put a lot of information in Spanish because I've been asked by many people to translate when I put everything in English, but I do it in both languages, and I try to be all the time like putting on information. So that's on Facebook, and on Twitter you put my tweet in your show today. Mm-hmm. So that's my personal account, but it's basically about activism and maybe some koala videos or that, but it's mostly about activism. So that's how you can contact me. And well, I hope many people that are listening can, I know many people are not from Mexico, but it would be awesome and it would be beautiful for me if they would join the Mexican community of activists, even from their homes, their computers, their cell phones, and support what we are trying to do in Mexico, that mainly is inform people about this. For me, he's a hero about Julian Assange and what he has done, and try to relate that to our situation here and try to make them understand that it's really relatable. It's not about just other countries. It's as relatable to Mexicans as it doesn't have a lot of information about Mexico, but it's about free press, it's about justice and injustice, and it's about a heroic labor that he has done over these years.
Awesome. And I put the Facebook page in the chat just now too.
Thank you.
Yeah. Stephanie?
Well, you can find me in Twitter as ls_Enriquez. Well, I can write it in the chat. So follow me there, and thank you for this opportunity. I really love Nat. I know that it seems that we have different points.
Love you too.
But we are fighting for the same things, because we have the same values, and we care about Julian, and we care about truth, and we care about activists. So please follow Mexico con Julian. Please, 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 and please help us to inform people about this important cause.
Hell yeah. That is gonna do it for me. This has been Slow News Day. I am going to be interviewing with Misty, our friend Sarcasm Stardust. She has a show called Facts on the Ground that she started co-hosting a couple of weeks back. So that should be fun, and I will make sure to let you guys in the chat know when that is posted. If you're not already, go ahead and go over to Facts on the Ground on YouTube and give Misty and Jesse a subscription. They've done some really killer interviews. And yeah, I will see you probably Tuesday on the vigil. Good luck to us all.